What's up, guys? I'm going to talk a bit about game asset topology and a little bit of a sneak peek into our new game asset course that's going to be releasing sometime in March, so I think you'll really enjoy it. So this is roughly what's going to be made in the course. We'll obviously have a lot more info coming as the release date gets closer, so mark your calendars. Mid-March is the projected release date. Yeah, this is not going to be the actual model, but it's going to be something similar. I was kind of doodling a few and seeing what I liked, and I thought this thing was really cool. Now, if we go in here, this is the high poly one, by the way. I also have a low poly one right here with a lot less detail, about 9,000 tries compared to 76,000. Now, I want to talk a bit about topology in game assets. Now, if I quickly go in here and show you the shading, you're going to see this shading is flawless. I mean, there might be a minor thing here and there on a curved surface, but I mean, look, shading's flawless. If we go to the side here, all this area, shading's flawless, obviously, because this is just a weighted normal dropped on. And up here, there is a little bit of a problem over here. I want to show you something interesting about this, though, and we'll do that in a bit. But yeah, overall, this thing has perfect shading no matter where we go. A little bit iffy here because we have a hole in a curved surface. I'm going to, once again, talk a bit about your options with this type of thing and how you can fix it. Everywhere else, I mean, it's perfect. Zoom in, you might see like a minor thing here and there on the holes. This one's actually really good. Point I'm making here is you want to go for good shading. Now, I want to show you something that might blow your mind. Let's go ahead and view this in wireframe. I'm going to go to here, here, and here. This thing is full of triangles everywhere. The curves of triangles, the holes of triangles. This is an interesting topic we'll be discussing deeply in the course. Triangulation around more complex geometry. It's going to be a very big focus and something that actually is not discussed anywhere else. We found a really useful technique which we'll be presenting, but point here is the shading's perfect, but the topology kind of looks like a mess. Now, on the high poly ones, we're generally not worried about the topology because we're going to be baking the high poly to the low poly. And at the end of the day, the high poly is not going to be touched in the game engine, only the low poly with the baked out textures applied to it. But, I mean, this entire thing, guys, topology's messy, triangulation's everywhere, but the shading is what matters here, and the shading is absolutely perfect. Now on the low poly, we have a similar type of setup. If we view it, look at that. Triangulations everywhere. Now the key with any sort of game asset, and I can't really explain it in one sentence here, that's what a lot of the course is going to be about, but the key with any sort of game asset is getting clean triangulations. Now there's so many different techniques we've tried for triangulating, especially with the more high poly detail like this. Nothing was better than this technique we found, and we'll present it in the course, obviously. It's going to be a big selling point. But triangulation is the key to getting good shading in your final mesh, and also to getting a good, well-optimized game asset for use in Unreal Engine or Marmoset. And speaking of Marmoset, I want to show you something. I have Marmoset loaded up here. This right here is the low poly with the detail baked on it. None of this detail right here, not this, not this, not these little things in here. None of this is real geo. This is all a bake. And you can kind of see it if you zoom in. It's a little bit more obvious, but I mean, these bakes are flawless. 4K bakes, 16-bit, I mean, it looks like geo. Now, one big problem we were running into when we were trying to do bakes in Marmoset with the way we work was we were getting collapsed geo every single time we went into Marmoset. We were exporting the high and low poly, and we were like, what in the world's happening? The shading's good, but it's not working in Marmoset. And there was one significant thing we discovered, and it was that auto triangulations are the devil. They are awful. You never want to do auto triangulations. You want to make sure you're doing your triangulations manually with the techniques that we'll be presenting. If you don't do your triangulations manually, what happens is Marmoset will automatically triangulate based off of their algorithm, and oftentimes this will cause overlaps in the bevel, and that actually can't be displayed. It's just going to render out as collapsed geometry and won't look good at all. So triangulation is everything. That is one thing we found out, and we'll be focusing on very, very deeply. And as you can see, there's not one problem with any of this, except maybe this corner. I'll have to sort that one out. You'll have minor issues with your bakes, which we'll also show you how to fix should that happen, but I mean, overall, this bake is just flawless. I mean, we zoom in here, this is a bake. See that? Gets a little bit iffy around the overlaps, but there are limitations to baking, obviously. This is a bake right here. I mean, I think you get the point. Most of this is bake detail. So the key to any game asset is good triangulation. Everything gets triangulated regardless, whether you're working with quads or n-gons, everything will be triangulated at the end of the day. So when you're working with n-gons, you want to be very careful with how you triangulate. So that is obviously what we will be discussing. Now, Substance Painter, on the other hand, I mean, this is just the low poly once again. I just slapped a simple smart material on it, and it looks perfect. I mean, we go in here, a little bit dusty and rusty, but this is all baked detail. And the final result that most of you would want to see is an Unreal Engine. Now, I didn't put much effort into texturing because I haven't recorded the texturing videos yet, but the texturing's fine. It renders just fine in Unreal, and if we go to Advanced and turn on our wireframe, we can see everything in here is triangulated, but we have no shading issues. So this course is going to be the ultimate game asset guide. Like, we're going to cover everything. There's a lot of tutorials we saw back in the day. They were good, but we had to piece so much together to, when I was learning game assets at least, I had to piece so much together just to get a decent, concise workflow. This is going to cover everything you need in one package, so you won't have to go jump around figuring out, you know, unwrapping, triangulation, modeling, like all of it will be in this course once we finish it up. So the wait will be worth it. A lot of people were asking about us making one. Might as well just tell you now, yes, it is being made, and the wait will be worth it. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that and also show you a bit about the topology in Blender, and that it doesn't matter how it looks, it matters how you get your bakes and how you have your low poly set up with a triangulation. So that's the important part. That's going to be a big focus point of the course, and that's all I really wanted to show you guys. So once again, we zoom in here and we turn off the wireframe. It's just flawless. Like, anywhere you go, absolutely no issues with it. A little bit of clipping right here because I'm zoomed in too far, but you get the point. So yeah, that's about it. That's all I wanted to talk about. I'm also going to link Ryu's video in the description. He made a similar one if you want to watch his stuff. And until the next video, we'll see you then.